Sirius XM Jolly Christmas. A channel stuffed with a sleigh load of nothing but upbeat, feel good, holiday favorites.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
For maximum merry, unwrapped Jolly Christmas. Now on Channel 105 and anytime in the Sirius XM app. Free with all trials and popular plans.
Get the Sirius XM app and listen on your phone when you get out of the car. Anywhere you take your phone, you can take Howard Stern, NFL Radio, and commercial-free music channels from nearly every genre. Channels vary by subscription plan. You never have to miss your favorite Sirius XM programs or commercial-free music. Find the Sirius XM app in the App Store or call 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/app to find out more.
Take a trip to the era that marked the birth of the first decade of rock and roll. 50s gold. From doo-wop on the street corner to the R&B girl groups. From the country crossover to the crooners. Hear Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Elvis Presley, and more. To hear 50s gold on Sirius XM, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or head to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly.
To Fenway Park and from Pasadena to New Orleans. Listen to every ball game on Sirius XM and the Sirius XM app.
I love this matchup.
We're counting down to kickoff on College Sports Radio, Channel 84, and our suite of Power 5 Conference Channel, 371 to 375.
Man, I think this one's fun for a lot of different reasons. You know they've got to be fired up on Cloud 9 for this game.
Find the complete bowl season schedule at SiriusXM.com/college football.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018-14868.
Flex your musical muscles with a new channel. Feature hip-hop from the 2000s and the 2010s.
Sit down.
On Flex 2K now. Sirius XM Channel 49 and the Sirius XM app. Included in all trials and popular plans. To hear Flex 2K, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/.
Actually, we were thinking of another legend.
Hey, it's me, Smokey Robinson.
Smokey is gift wrapping Christmas soul classics from the 60s and 70s on his very own channel.
Merry Christmas, baby. I'm going to play some of my favorite Christmas songs. I love this time of year. This Christmas. It's Smokey's Holiday Soul Town.
Now through Christmas Day on Channel 74 and the Sirius XM app.
Drago Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici, let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people from New York City. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be mine? Won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! It's 3 o'clock in the morning. As I told you, I've been talking about reparations. In fact, I've been talking about reparations now, reparations forever. And just when some people told me, man, you talk too much politics on this sports show, I want to just say today's show is different because I want to. Sometimes when you know that you have found something that's good, other people want to know, man, what do you put in that Big C burger? What do you put in those collard greens? What do you put in that chocolate cake? They all want to know, so they can copy it. What did KFC said? They don't share the recipe because it's just like Big C Sports, it's finger licking good. And I want it is. What do you mean finger licking good, Curry? It is finger licking good. My show is so different. I'm gonna do something because I think it's so important. Faith comes by hearing. As you know, I've been petitioning not only President Biden in the White House, I've been channeling President Abraham Lincoln about reparations. I've been also asking NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and soccer leagues, and especially our beautiful, intelligent African-American athletes to stand behind reparations. And some people are afraid, but don't be afraid. I'm going to play something that just happened yesterday as I was doing the show live. It comes out of New York City. I want you to give it some praise as I talk about sports and reparations and why the United States, the largest financial center of the United States, they're getting behind it too. Take notes and listen up.
Thanks so much for joining us today, to all of you, and many, many thanks to those of you, our elected officials in the great state of New York, who have made this historic moment possible. I wanted to talk a little bit about New York Historical's work and why we are not only so honored to be the venue for this morning's historic announcement and signing, but also the kind of work that we've done that coincides so perfectly with the spirit of what is about to happen today. We are an institution that for the past 2 decades and more has told the story of the great history and important history of slavery in New York and the evolution of this state for this morning's historic announcement and signing, but also the kind of work that we've done that coincides so perfectly with the spirit of what is about to happen today. We are an institution that for the past 2 decades and more has told the story of the great history and important history of slavery in New York and the evolution of this state towards freedom and equality for all. As I'm sure each and every one of you knows, New York was a state in which slavery until 1827 was allowed, although there were many voices that called for abolition, including some of our founders like Alexander Hamilton and John Jay and others. It was a long, long time before this state recognized the importance of freedom and equality for all. And so in 1827, New York did finally abolish slavery. But the history continued, and New York very much through the beginning of the Civil War was a place, especially New York City, that profited from the South. New York was called a Southern city. New York industry, commerce and industry, much of it was fueled by cotton. And so really until the outbreak of the Civil War, the city and the state more generally, but less so, but certainly the city was heavily implicated in the history of slavery. This institution has endeavored to focus on the important contributions that were made right from the beginning, from the very first enslaved people who were brought to this city in the 17th century by the Dutch, and who built the wall on Wall Street, who built Broadway, which would eventually and somewhat nicely today lead to Harlem. This is a city that depended on the hard work and efforts and labor that was not compensated for so many years of people who had come originally from Africa. The happier part of the story is one that we're very proud to tell on a permanent basis in our permanent gallery on our first floor. I hope some of you have had the chance to see it on your way in this morning, or will see it on your way out today. It is an installation that we call Composite Nation. It was based on a speech that Frederick Douglass gave at the end of the Civil War, when he believed that this nation was on its way to embracing everyone, irrespective of race or religion, economic circumstances at all. It spells out a vision which is marvelous, and which, though Frederick Douglass sadly lived long enough to see would not be carried out in his lifetime, we endeavor to carry out today.
Well, as I tell you, Big C Sports is different. That's what I wanted to say about today's show. I'm not about shucking and jiving. I believe this nation's due for a healing. And when I tell you that I do a lot of my shows based on sports and reparations, and you just heard what's happening in the United States, everybody has a thought on sports. But Governor Hochul out of New York City, the first woman governor in the history of New York City, her name is Kathy Hochul, and she's proposing studying reparations. I say we go and listen to what she's saying. New York City's leadership on racial equity signs legislation establishing a commission to study reparations and racial justice. I want to give that some praise, because that's like Big C Sports, and that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I say more than study, we need to sign reparations now, reparations forever. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And I say that Governor Hochul, obviously, that was announced December 19th, 2023. That was just yesterday. And when I think about that, I've been asking the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball, the commissioners, Manfred of the Major League Baseball, Goodell of NFL football, and then you look at NBA basketball. They've all made so much money on the body of black athletes. Adam Silver, he's the manager, he's the commissioner of the NBA. These are all headquartered out of New York City, the same city that broadcast Big C Sports Podcast. That's called the clue. So I don't feel, I gotta say this because I want to be so factual. And when we talk about sports and politics, and I know it's happening because the vote's coming up. They already have the studies for reparations. And when you finally listen to Big C Sports Podcast, again, my show's different today. Been a really special day. I want to say this because it's so important. There are times when you can only lead, follow, or get out of the way for so long. But as people are looking to establish a commission on reparations, they don't have to look too far. Just Google Justice for Uncompensated Survivors Today Act of 2017. The Justice for Uncompensated Survivors Today Act of 2017 is United States legislation that requires the State Department of the United States to report to Congress on steps that 47 countries in Europe have already taken to compensate Holocaust survivors and their heirs for assets seized by Nazi Germany and post-war communist governments. You got to give that some praise. They don't need to study anything. They just need to copy it. It's already been studied and paid out. You got to do the same thing for the descendants of child slavery. And I appreciate all the governors, from Gavin Newsom, from the West Coast in California, to Governor Hochul, from New York City, the East Coast, see the shining sea, and all states in between. We already have the roadmap. What did they say in the Wizard of Oz? They said, follow the yellow brick road. Just follow the yellow brick road. It's not that complicated. And the beautiful thing about the reparations push, I know you want to know who won the game. I know you want to know who your favorite player is in the game. But this is a sea change in the United States. Because the good people are starting to do the right thing. It happened right as the Civil War had broken out. The South wanted to keep slavery so they didn't have to pay people. But the North, they were starting to use machines to replace people. Just like AI is starting to replace people now. And so we had this war with the North called the Union and the Southern Confederates. And the Southern Confederates were starting to win. So President Abraham Lincoln, in his brilliance, with the assistance of Frederick Douglass, they offered black men who joined the Union Army 40 acres and a mule, called the Emancipation Proclamation, if they were to help the North Union defeat the Southern Confederates. And it worked! And so now we're called the United States of America. And all that means is, in 2023, December 19th, Governor Hochul of New York acknowledged the same thing that California's been acknowledging. It's acknowledging the same thing that the State Department has been acknowledging, to make sure the Holocaust didn't happen in the United States. It happened in Germany. Auschwitz, Dachau, a lot of the concentration camps. But it's the United States government, Congress, is making sure that there are Jewish brethren continue to get reparations. Black Americans, descendants of child slavery, that happened in the United States. And we're asking Congress to do the same thing. Justice for Uncompensated Survivors Today Act of 2023 should be United States legislation that requires the State Department to report to Congress on the steps that 50 states in the United States are taking to compensate descendants of chattel slavery. You got to give that some praise, because the roadmap is already there. So while I appreciate the governors that want to study it, all they got to do is copy what Congress has already approved of. This time, do it for descendants of chattel slavery. And that's the right thing, and I want to give that some praise. I appreciate all the governors that are not so drunk in love with sports, because the next wave you're going to see, as I've been saying it, as people start asking for your vote, they're going to tell you they're going to study things. But what I would say, follow artificial intelligence. It copies things. You ever copy someone when you're taking a test in class, whether you're in kindergarten or 12th grade or college, and you copy someone's paper so you can turn it in? You might change a few things, but if they got an A paper, you copy it. And I think it's called Chat GPT. They can do great papers for you, and you turn it in as if it's your own work. So reparations is nothing new. It's happened for people all over this world. But it was a peculiar institution in the United States. And I've been saying that sports will galvanize people all over the world. That's why the Olympics is so highly praised. And with Big C Sports, I know when I started this process, I'm not saying I'm the first one, but I know I took a lot of criticism from people who are just ignorant. And they say, man, I just want to watch the game. Well, go watch your games. But in Congress and in high places of government, from Governor Hochul in New York to Governor Gavin Newsom in California, they've studied long enough. I just told you. Google Justice for Uncompensated Survivors Today Act of 2017. It's the Justice Department for Uncompensated Survivors Today Act of 2017. It's United States legislation that requires State Department to report to Congress, that same Congress that is considering signing reparations in the law, on steps that 47 countries in Europe have taken to compensate Holocaust survivors and their heirs for assets seized by Nazi Germany and post-war communist governments. I told you African Americans are next, because the right people are starting to realize they've already passed reparations, but they kept ignoring black Americans. Now, I'm not going to be macabre when I say this. What is macabre, Curry? Google it. I know the cynicism is, they're just saying this because they want you to vote for them. They've already done it for our Jewish brethren. Why you got to study it for descendants of child slavery? It's already been done. Hitler was in power from 1933 to 1945. That's just 12 years. They've been getting reparations, and Congress is making sure it happens for descendants of Holocaust. Black Americans helped end Hitler's reign. You got to know that. And I'm just saying, for Christmas, what a great Christmas it could be in the United States of America if we all wake up on Christmas morning, which is Monday, and President Joe Biden has said, I have an announcement to make. The one I just let you hear from New York City. He says, I'm signing reparations now. Reparations forever. He can do it for Christmas. It doesn't take that long to sign the document. President Abraham Lincoln already issued it. So I appreciate people saying they got to study it. But President Lincoln already did the studying. It's a federal issue. Don't make it about the states. I just told you, Survivors for Today Act is making sure that all 47 states in Europe are making sure the Holocaust brethren get their pays. So no one has to study anything. It's already being done. In fact, Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Rick Scott of Florida, they reintroduced to Congress in I believe it was May of 2023 to make sure that descendants of Holocaust can still get their payments. They're not studying anything. It's already done. You can Google it. I believe in footnoting everything I say because some people, they don't believe what they hear until they can verify it. You can Google this. That's why Big C Sport is so factual. It was April 18th, 2023. Press release. Senator Marco Rubio and colleagues reintroduced a bill to restore Holocaust survivors' rights. What? You mean they don't have to study it, Curry? No. Why they have to study for black folks? I don't know. But countless Holocaust survivors and their descendants have been unable to recover their unpaid pre-Holocaust insurance policies. United States Senator Marco Rubio, Republican of Florida, Jackie Rosen, Democrat of Nevada, Kevin Cramer, Republican, North Dakota, and Rick Scott, Republican of Florida. They reintroduced the Holocaust Insurance Accountability Act. If they reintroduced it, doesn't that tell you they've already done the studies? And that there's no need to study anything else. It's already been done. Just replace the name Descendants of Holocaust with Descendants for Chattel Slavery. The legislation would allow beneficiaries of Holocaust-era insurance policies to bring civil action in United States district courts against the insurer for the covered policy to recover proceeds due or otherwise enforce any rights under the policy. You got to understand that Senator Marco Rubio first introduced the bill with then Senator Bill Nelson, Democrat of Florida, in 2011. While people still want to study for black American descendants of child slavery, there's nothing else to study. You just copy and paste. Give copy and pasting some praise. I'm telling you, Big C Sports is different. I'm going to get into some more things, but today's show is different because this is breaking news, and I know people want to hear, well, is Draymond Green gonna be on the court when the Boston Celtics play the Golden State Warriors? You heard more about Stephen Curry dropping 30-plus points last night to beat Boston than you heard about New York City considering reparations. The headquarters for the National Basketball Association, the NBA, it comes out of New York City! And that's a lot more important than if Steph Curry scored 30 baskets or 30 points in a basketball game. And all the headquarters for the NFL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball, they come out of New York City. They can follow the lead of their governor. They don't have to follow the lead of Big C Sports. shucking and jiving. Oh man, you talk too much politics. And I just want to give the governor of New York some praise because she didn't have to do it. She could have said, shut up and dribble, like some people have told us. And you notice, I told you, Colin Cat, I was talking about Muhammad Ali yesterday. And there's so many things that we can do in this life to be significant. I appreciate every governor in the United States. They don't want to keep sleeping with the enemy. What? Sleeping with the enemy? Wasn't that a movie? Yeah, they were sleeping with the enemy. It was a movie. But sleeping with the enemy means, how do you go to bed with a clean conscience in a nation, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all? How do you go to bed with that enemy? That same enemy that exercised one of the most cruel forms of behavior for a sovereign country. That's called slavery. And it ended in 1865 because of President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Basically, that was 1863, but slavery didn't end until 1865 in Texas because they kept getting the free labor. And that's why you hear about Juneteenth. You would think the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball, they would give it praise because the black bodies that make them a billion-dollar entities now, that's where most of them came from, that legacy. We're only talking about 3 generations ago. Civil rights was passed into law in 1964 under President Lyndon Baines Johnson. That granted African American civil rights. My great-grandmother was born into slavery. I was fortunate enough to see that and have her hold me in her arms and talk about someday, baby, things are going to be much better. Before civil rights. I remember that, called her Mamo. And it's a shame that it's taken this long and we still don't have reparations for descendants of chattel slavery. We have it for our Jewish brethren, and we give that praise. And we're asking those same brethren to just do the right thing. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's important. I love saying that because it's so important. And to me, I just wanted to have that great announcement on the show because that affects every black athlete. The holidays are coming. People are about to gather around with family members and loved ones. And you look at some of those pictures on the wall, those pictures of your ancestry that's in heaven now. And many of them, as far as great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents, they were born into one of the most draconian times in the history of the United States of America, called slavery. They had no rights. How dare we don't pay homage to them? How dare we so quiet as a proud people? All life came from Africa. But now even the white people are showing more courage than many of our black leaders because they're saying reparations now, reparations forever. Kathy Hochul from New York, Gavin Newsom from California. Where are black leaders doing it? They want to go to church and have church service coming up on Christmas. Why aren't they out there stomping for reparations? Before you ask for the tithe! You know they're going to ask for the tithe on Sunday. Where's that money going? That money's not pouring back into the communities in a letter written to the president. You have the evidence all around President Joe Biden for reparations. But what about the game, Curry? What about the game? I'll talk about the game later. It's bigger than the game. In fact, it's the Super Bowl of civil rights of black Americans. It's called reparations now, reparations forever. And give it the praise. So for people, my black brethren, media and athletes, and politicians and clergy, you say, well, you can't talk about reparations because people mean that like you. A white lady just did it in New York City. I told you, not all white people are anti-reparations. They were white abolitionists. There were a lot of evil white people, too, that were lynching and raping slaves and murdering slaves with impunity. Yeah, they existed. They existed. There used to be statues before some of them were torn down in the South. Named after some of the biggest plantation owners. And many presidents also owned slaves. In the land of the free, the home of the brave. So there's a sea change coming, and I see it. You can feel it. We need to have the same passion for reparations as we have for a touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Old man Willie, he's going all the way. I'm telling you, I'm so proud to be a part of a push that's being backed by governors all around the country. And whether it's HR 40 or AB 3121, there are smart people that realize they want to meet God someday too. How do you meet God when you've been sleeping with the enemy? What? Sleeping with the enemy? Yeah, the enemies that say, segregation now! Segregation forever! Why do you want to sleep with those kind of people? Why do you want to sleep with those kind of people? Because they still exist. And they're the ones that told our athletes, shut up and dribble! Don't you dare honor where you came from! But when you go home and you look at those family photo albums, or you look at that mantle on the fireplace or on the wall, you see the great-grandparents and the great-great-grandparents who were born in the most draconian times in the history of this country. They were beaten, they were raped, their children were sold off, and you had no recourse. And it was sanctioned by the United States government. In the first part of the show, they even told you, Governor Hochul, they told you that out of New York City, told you that Wall Street was built on black bodies. It was built by black people. It led to what's called Harlem. Think about that. People want to watch movies. They want to go watch Hamilton. Hamilton was about slavery and getting freedom. But, you know, you got to pay when you go see those shows in New York City. You got to pay when you invest money in the companies that trade with the Fortune 500. The New York Stock Exchange was built on black bodies. People don't know that. Unless you follow Big C Sports or you're an avid reader. And isn't it great to not have to sleep with the enemy anymore? Because some people are sleeping with the enemy and you're getting your butts beat! Like lightning! What about getting out of that bed with the enemy? What does that make? How does that make sense, Curry? A lot of people are sleeping with the enemy called their guilty conscience. And before they pass away, they're going to be asking someone to pray for them so they can atone for their sins. If you're in Congress and you have the power of the pen in your hand and you refuse, you're sleeping with the enemy. That's why it's important that our politicians and our sports league, these are white people asking to pass reparations. A lot of our black folks, they're just afraid. You would think it'd be black people stomping, saying, reparations now, reparations forever. Governor Gavin Newsom, he's white. Kathy Hochul, she's a white lady. So what's our black brethren excuse? What's our excuse? Dr. King said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And it seems the only group that hasn't gotten reparations yet is just us! So for you black men and women who are afraid to stand behind reparations, there are white people who are decent that are trying to get it passed. And they're asking the man that the black vote put in the office to do it. That's President Joe Biden, the same hand that signed the crime bill that destroyed a lot of black families through mass incarceration, sleeping with the enemy. And now he can use that same hand to say, you know what? I want to atone for my sins. It's not enough to talk about studying anything. You can only study so long. There are football games and basketball games, they're about to happen all over this country. And they study the game tape and practice. But eventually, when it's time to tip off or time to kick off, as it's time to stand up for the kickoff, you can't study anymore. You're going to have a delay of game if you don't get out there on the court and perform for people. And now it's time to sign reparations in the law. What a great Christmas it would be in 2023. I mean, ask President Zelensky what it feels like to get $100 billion! He didn't even vote for Joe Biden. He didn't march for Joe Biden. He didn't hold town halls to make sure that Joe Biden got elected. That was our black pastors that did that. And Clapper, you know it's true. You got all the black politicians. You got President Obama. You got First Lady Michelle Obama. And they went out there and they stomped around the country saying who to vote for. And since black people listened, President Joe Biden got elected. The same man that signed the crime bill that helped destroy a lot of black families. How does that make sense to you? Sleeping with the enemy? If you're not the enemy, sign reparations. You did it for white people. You did it for a foreigner, President Zelensky. And then he's so bold, he came back and asked for another $100 billion. So all the governors, I love the fact that you want to study something. There's nothing else to study. We've already given it to our descendants of Holocaust. Native Americans got it. Japanese Americans got it. It's time for descendants of child slavery. You know, the ones that helped the United States, what's called the Union at the time, win the Civil War. That group! You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Google, Alexa, Spotify, Spreaker Podcast, Apple Podcast, GitPods Podcast, TuneIn Podcast, Amazon Podcast, iHeartRadio Podcast, Castbox Podcast, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict. You can follow us on Podchaser. You can follow Big C Sports Podcast on Geo Savan out of London, England, as well as India and Africa, Podtail, YouTube, Upper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Beatpod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Listen Notes, Podcast Wise, Pod Bay, Global Podcast, Podcast Prodigy, Podcast Republic, and allfeeds.ai. Give that some praise because the rumors are trying to take over. You know, I just appreciate so many things about Big C Sports, and I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our lives and reparations. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. The storytelling. I even do the play-by-play. The show's uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City. And streaming on 4 TV platforms. And number 10, I never missed a show since creating Big C Sports with the crew back in the days at Salem Media. And I want to just say I love doing the PSA for the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know, anybody going through issues, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give it some praise because we all need somebody to lean on. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then he said, let there be light. And now you got governors in the United States studying reparations. You don't have to study, just copy it. It's a federal issue. The federal government condoned it. If it was up to the states, there'd still be some slaves. Because not every state was pro-abolitionists. Some states were antithetical to black Americans being free. They wanted the free labor and all the free sex they could get from the slaves. They wanted to sell human bodies from plantation owner to plantation owner and lynching you when you got out of line. Lynching you when you tried to read, when you tried to learn and get an education. When you showed that you loved your partner, they wanted to sell you to another plantation. so they can fracture the black spirit. But it can't be broken. And so I'm just over the top, filled with joy. I'm a little bit incredulous because I know they're going to be asking for the vote, and they're going to say we want to study for black Americans what we've already done for descendants of Holocaust. We want to study for black Americans what we've already done for Native Americans. We want to study for black Americans what we've already done for Japanese Americans that were interned in internment camps. We want to keep studying for you guys. But will you please give me the black vote? They're going to stump out President Obama. They're going to stump out First Lady Michelle Obama. You already know that. They're going to stump out Al Sharpton, our quote-unquote black leaders. And if they don't say we demand reparations, like Senator Marco Rubio of Florida and Senator Rick Scott of Florida, they took a bill to Congress to sue for a payment. If they ain't offering reparations now, don't vote for them. Fool me once. What did George Bush say? Fool me once? Shame on you. You're not going to fool me again. We don't need to study anything. We just need to get in the same line that other members of this country have gotten in line to get. And that's reparations. That's the only part that makes me a little bit incredulous. Because I don't want to be incredulous. I don't want to be cynical. What's incredulous, Curry? Google it. I don't want to be incredulous. I want to make sure that we all get help. This country deserves to stop sleeping with the enemy. You sleeping with the enemy when you have a clean conscience for not doing the right thing for descendants of child slavery. I love what I do so much. I want to give praise to the California Reparations Task Force. They've been studying too long. There's an 1,100-page report, and all they have to do is copy what descendants of Holocaust survivors have gotten. We're still studying! California Reparations Task Force, I met with every one of them. But I do want to give them praise. Camila Moore, she's brilliant. She's a chair. I really do appreciate her intellect. I want to give praise to Dr. Amos C. Brown. He's the vice chair. He's brilliant. I appreciate his history. I want to give praise to the #1 Senator of the United States of America, California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's brilliant. He's also authored name, image, and likeness to help college athletes get paid. He also offered the Ebony Alert, which helps law enforcement give the same resources to find black children when they go missing as it does with the Amber Alert to help find white children when they go missing. And he's also making sure that California get reparations. You got to give him praise. He's the best singer that there is. And I'm having a meeting with him coming up after the holidays. I want to thank Councilmember Monica Montgomery Steppe. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Assembly Member Reginald Jones Swigger. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Shel Griggs. She's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Devon Scott Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Donald K. Tamaki, descendant of Japanese American who also got reparations. I want to give him praise. He's brilliant. You know, you can all... Everybody has their own thoughts about things. And I'm going to touch on a little bit of sports too. But if you sports guys are not... Give me some praise what I just said. You sports leagues, especially with the black folks, how are you more quiet than a white lady when it comes to reparations? You can't tell me she has to have more courage than us and our clergy that ask for the tithes. Some churches ask for the tithe 2 or 3 times on the same service. And you don't stand behind these people who are saying we need to study reparations. You study things to pass reparations. There's no more need to study anything. Just copy. Give copying some praise. When Henry Ford created the V8 motor, they started copying the success of the first plans. And then they created these assembly lines, and then they started creating engines, motors to get people out of horse and buggy to get them in the cars. Copying's okay. Give copying some praise. I want to thank Double O. She's part of the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She sent me Executive Order 13985 to further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. That's the White House. How did all these things happen? I already talked about Marco Rubio and Rick Scott, those senators from Florida, making sure they reintroduce a bill to restore Holocaust survivors' rights. I also want to give praise to Georgetown University because they already passed and pledged over $1 billion and counting in reparations for 272 families descendants of child slavery that helped pay off the debts for Georgetown. They were selling black bodies. They were selling men, women, and children to pay off the debts for Georgetown. You know what it's like to go pick up your child from school and you run about a minute late and you get to the school and you don't see your child, so you get out of the car, you go inside and you want to ask the administration and the principal, excuse me, I'm looking for my child. I normally pick my child up at a certain time. And they say, oh, your child was sold. What? Yeah, we sold your child. We had to pay off some debts. You would lose your mind. But the United States government sanctioned that. And they're still sleeping with the enemy because they've yet to pass reparations. Well, how do you call that sleeping with the enemy? How do you sleep with someone who's so evil and refuses to stop abusing you? We vote for the country, fought in every single war, and playing sports as a professional athlete is not reparations. Oh, what about the $1 million athletes, Curry? What about those guys? We go touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Oh man, Willie, he's going all the way. What about those guys? What about them? Their voices are so quiet, they won't even say what a white lady is saying. In New York City, the governor, Kathy Hochul, she's saying black Americans deserve reparations. You heard it at the beginning of the show. We can't get our black athletes to say it. Who are they afraid of? Who told them to shut up? Are you sleeping with the enemy? Because there are good people who are saying this country did black Americans wrong. We got to fix it. The United Nations is saying we need reparations. What about the game, Curry? What about the game? They created games to take our mind off of reality. You know, many of the people who own NFL teams and NBA teams, they come from a group that got reparations or the Homestead Act. And none of them are black. What about Magic Johnson, Curry? He's black. He only owns a percentage of the Washington Commanders. There's no one professional sports team in the United States of America that's solely owned by a black American, descendant of child slavery. But you can see descendants that came out of the Holocaust and descendants who got the Homestead Act. They own the teams. How'd they get a head start? Is anybody studying them? Anybody studying how to get them paid? They got so much money because they were given a head start. And through compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world, now every sports league in the United States of America is owned by either someone who came out of the Holocaust, heirs, or the Homestead Act. And these leagues are worth billions of dollars off of black bodies. And now you have black men who are afraid to even pay homage to their ancestry because somebody told them, shut up! Why don't you call that person out the same way the country helped get rid of apartheid in South Africa? They shouted people out because they were treating black Africans bad. I mean, it's important to me that I say this stuff. So President Biden, he backs a bill to study reparations. Don't study no more. It's time to take the test. And you'll know if you pass the test when it's time to get elected. No reparations, no black vote. I'm hearing that mantra it's like a tsunami. No reparations, no vote. And you got the ball in your hand right now. You're on the 1-yard line. It's the Super Bowl. It's the Super Bowl of 2024. You're on the 1-yard line. You're down in the polls. You're at 34% in the polls. All you got to do is cross the goal line and you'll win the game. Well, what play should I run, Curry? What play should I run to win the game? I've been promising you guys what I'm going to do. Well, promises are not enough. You want to win that game, you take that pen that you use to sign the crime bill and you sign reparations and you'll get elected. Again, by the same group that got you in office the first time. Don't keep sleeping with the enemy. Who's the enemy, Curry? The people that say we don't deserve reparations as descendants of child of slavery. Those people. But there's enough good people in this country, and I want to say, if this doesn't sound too sophomoric, I'm proud. I'm proud of the brave people who want to do the right thing, and I want to give them praise. I know I told you my show is different because there's times when things need to be different. Freedman's Bank, Google Freedman's Bank, it was created by the United States Congress for black Americans after the Civil War to put their money in the bank. But you know, they were so crooked that you could not get a loan from the money you deposited in the bank. That's called crooked. But they allowed white investors to invest money that black Americans put in the bank. Is that draconian? And they even appointed 50 white trustees over that bank that was filled with multiple tens of millions of dollars of black dollars. And they stole the money! At some point in time, you don't have to study nothing. It's time to just copy what's already been done. And I love saying that. That's so important. I just love giving Governor Hochul some praise out of New York City because she held a press conference and told people that we've been treating black people bad in this country. And it still goes on in financial institutions with bank redlining and gerrymandering with the vote and racial covenants and real estate contracts. This property is not to be sold or rented to someone who's not white or Caucasian. That's still there in 2023. I'm going to say, I just want to give it some praise for having the courage to stop sleeping with the enemy, and that the enemy that you sleep with is the one that tells you, shut up! Just like a person being abused, they're often threatened by the abuser. The abuser says, if you tell somebody, then I'm going to hurt you. Call 911 and let them be dealing with that. Someone bigger and stronger than them. Don't put up with that crap. Not even for a second. Hit me once! Shame on you! You're not going to hit me again. And I'm just proud. I'm just proud today. I'm emboldened because the work that I've been doing. I'm one beautiful, intelligent black man from Dimner Hills, California, and I've been talking about this stuff really since I was in college, but more importantly, since I got access to the airwaves since about 2015. So that's going on, 8 years now? And to see it coming around the mountain, I'm just really happy. I'm just really proud of it. I want to tell you, for people who are looking for work, my goal is to help over 1,000 real estate agents and brokers in 2024 create income to help stimulate the economy. If you're a real estate broker or insurance agent and you're looking for work, you know the banks are hard on lending money now. I don't know what they're trying to do to the economy. But if you're looking for work, 800-772-8624. Call 800-772-8624. Call 800-772-8624. Call 800-772-8624. Why you want them to call you, Curry? Because if you're looking for work, we have a business loan alternative company. We can approve in less than an hour. Oftentimes, same-day funding. Items needed to qualify: 4 months bank statements, $5,000 minimum monthly revenue, 6 months in business. We specialize in unsecured working capital, up to $5 million, no collateral needed, early payoff discounts, and we can fund oftentimes in as little as 1 day. You got to give that some praise. Well, Curry, what number do we call? You call 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624, if that makes sense to you. You know, I always talk about paying homage to my family legacy, and I really do appreciate that from my mother's side. my great-grandmother, Mamo, my great-grandfather, Pop, my beautiful grandmother, Madia, my beautiful grandfather, Hezekiah, and then I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program to feed people, also coach some all boys, a Little League baseball team to the championship, always saying rise and shine. I love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. On my father's side, I'm going to give praise to my grandfather, Albert Curry, my grandmother, Alberta Curry, and my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, always making sure airplanes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. Always saying develop your mind to its highest extent. My beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice sound like thunder and lightning. One top is my beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. What Daddy's been talking about, now governors are talking about it. Reparations will happen. You're going to be a millionaire soon. And your daddy's the one championing that more than anybody that you'll ever hear on television. I do it every day. You can be anything you want to be. She set up the very first interview for Big C Sports, and now I'm saying the same thing that even governors are saying. You can be anything you want, Daisy. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College senior, very smart, erudite, a good man. Help me, I'm telling you. Tell me about Googling. And now I'm on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. One day Malcolm said, Dad, you want to be on TV? You want to see Big C Sports on TV? And now I'm streaming on 4 TV platforms. That's before I was even on television. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God and always speak things that be not as though they were. Remember that. Romans 4:17. You know, there's a scripture that I've been really meditating on as the world is opening up. And it talks about Ephesians 3:20, for he is able to do abundantly and above more than you can ask or think. And that's scripture. And Big C Sports, right now, with my insurance partners, there's over 5,000 colleges in the United States. And they all got to have insurance. And I know that at least 1,000 of them are going to join what I'm doing with the Big C team. I already have confirmation. This was already supposed to have happened in 2018. But for some reason, God let it slip away. But it's come back now. Every college, university, they're going to know the name Big C Sports, and many of them do. But there's mandated coverages coming to the insurance industry, and with a great group of people that have a way to help you get back to work again. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. And that's important. You got to give that some praise. That's only by God we praise Him. It was offered to me. And I knew it was going to be, I told you, Big C Sports is going to be $1 billion corporation. I already know it. I've been planning it for years. I've been working on this for 10 years. And now it's coming. There's so many people that are just opening doors through the praise. I'm so emboldened. I want to thank NBC News, CBS News, the Associated Press for doing an article on Big C Sports and reparations. It was back in March of 2023, March 30th. You can Google it. It says Charlton Curry of Sacramento, California discusses reparations on his Big C Sports podcast and says that cash payments are necessary. And now you have the governor of New York saying it, as well as the governor of California and many in between. You got to give that some praise. I really appreciate today's show because it was different. But I want you to say as I close, please Google AB 3121 and Google HR 40 and give it praise. It's about reparations. It's not just me. It's everybody that wants to do right in the eyes of God, in my opinion. So again, NFL football, NBA basketball, Major League Baseball, President Joe Biden, are you for reparations? Are you for reparations now? Are you for reparations forever? In New York City, the governor joins President Abraham Lincoln in promising no more shucking and jiving. You got to give that some praise. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. That's who won the game. Well, as I always tell you on every Big C Sports show, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You could call Uber, you could call Lyft, you could walk it off. You can sleep it off, but don't start drinking and get behind the wheel of a car and drive. The life you save may be your own or somebody that you love. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, you know what time it is. For everyone who follows Big C Sports, as we always tell you on Big C Sports Podcast, I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day. Well, wait a minute, Curry, you didn't honor Muhammad Ali. Oh, that's right. Well, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, he said, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. Every time I listen to Big C Sports, it makes me want to say, reparations now, reparations forever. And then I said, like a butterfly, sting like a bee. That's my story, I'm taking with it. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to deal with that garbage on their own. If you know any man, woman, or child dealing with that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911. You should not be sleeping with the enemy. And things change when the police show up. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And now, what about President Abraham Lincoln? Curry? Give me a chance. I can only talk so fast. Well, as I say back my popular demand, I want to say, what did President Abraham Lincoln tell President Joe Biden to do for Christmas? He says, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Come on, we have governors all over this country that are on that bandwagon now, like Noah's Ark. When God told Moses, he said, go down into Egypt and tell Pharaoh to sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Say it like your team just won the championship. President Biden, you can do this. The evidence is all around you. You're 34% in the polls. You can change it by signing reparations now, reparations forever. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day.